Many people believe that the Day of the Dead and Halloween are the same holiday. The Day of the Dead is actually a religious Mexican holiday, and it is celebrated in just 3 days to remember those who have passed. I've always been intrigued by this holiday. Today I'm going to share with you the culture and what happens on each of the 3 days. The Day of the Dead is an important holiday in the country of Mexico. This holiday originates from the Aztecs and their tradition of honoring the dead, according to Gerald Erickson in the article Day of the Dead Honors the Deceased. It was an old custom to spend nights in the graveyard to welcome the dead. El Dia de los Muertos is Spanish for the Day of the Dead. There are several beliefs about the Day of the Dead. It is said that one's fortunes depend upon how well you treat the dead. It is also believed that if the dead are not properly worshipped, it could jeopardize one's safety and one's health. This tradition has been kept alive through present-day Mexico and Central America. Mexico has made it a celebration for departed loved ones. Lost loved ones are celebrated in many different ways. Mexico celebrates with big parades and parties. As opposed to the Americanized Halloween, the Day of the Dead is actually a religious holiday. Rob Walsh states in his article, The Bread of the Dead, that it is a time for the living to come together with the deceased for a feast. The Day of the Dead is celebrated with a huge feast and many other foods and beverages throughout the festivities. Pan de Muerto is a bread made specifically for the occasion. Each loaf represents an individual soul. Pan de Muerto stands for the Day of the Dead bread. Sugar skulls are made in order to represent a departed soul. Skull makers are specialists whose talent has been passed from generation to generation. According to Douglas Day, author of the article A Day with the Dead, up until about 100 years ago, it wasn't uncommon to use real skulls dug up once a year just for the occasion, but they would have to have priest supervision in order to do this. Ofrendas are built in order to honor the dead. According to Walsh, the ofrenda is the center of the Day of the Dead celebration. Ofrendas are altars made by those honoring their deceased loved ones. The altars are completely covered in cloth and decorated. Yellow marigolds are known as the flower of the dead, and they're used to decorate their altars. Photos of the deceased are also spread throughout their altars. In order to remember those who are gone, Walsh states that their favorite items are placed in the altar, along with candies, sugar skulls, and papier-mâché decorations. Items such as favorite beverages, food, books, accessories, and other items decorate the adult ofrendas. Day mentions that a child's altar is decorated with food and toys. Now that you've got an idea of the Day of the Dead and how it is a significant holiday, I can key you in on how each day is celebrated. El Dia de los Muertos is celebrated October 31st through November 2nd. It was traditionally celebrated at the beginning of summer, but throughout time it has been pushed back and now corresponds with the 3-day Catholic celebration, All Hallowtide. The first day of the celebration is October 31st, All Saints' Eve. This is the day where the details are organized and the celebration is prepared. According to old customs, this is the day where women would clean the house, make candles, prepare food and beverages like hot chocolate, and make pan de muerto. This is also the day where the men would oversee the building of the altars that would later be decorated for the children. Day mentions in his article that about around midnight on this day, they would sit down and pray for the spirits of the children, and they would come and visit and enjoy their gifts. November 1st is the second day, All Saints' Day. On this day, a larger feast is prepared for the older deceased members who would arrive the next morning at dawn, States' Day. Altars for the adults and elderly are prepared on this day. These altars are a lot more elaborate with skulls and bones. November 2nd is the last day of the celebration, All Souls' Day. On the last day, all festivities are taken to the cemetery where the dead are buried. This is a day reserved for rest and recuperation, and people will gather with their deceased loved ones for one last time. They will gather to reminisce, tell stories, and say final words. In conclusion, this holiday is very important to Mexico, and it is not to be confused with the Americanized Halloween. A huge piece of Mexican culture is celebrated in just 3 days. Even though we are all living in the U.S., visiting Mexico during this time would be such a cool experience, because this holiday has no competition.